quiet. He's kind of withdrawn. He doesn't remember all the special anniversary dates. He's just a dude. You know, some dudes are like that. I mean, can you say confused? This was terrible. Hello, Bookish Babes, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm so very glad that you clicked on today's video to join me in bringing you 6 one-star books I will never recommend to you. And so without further ado, let's jump straight into today's video. Where do I begin? I mean, I have read a lot of books over the past couple of years that I absolutely didn't like All Your Perfects. I wasn't a super fan of that. November 9 wasn't a fan of that. The Obsession was not a fan of that. But I have specifically 6 books in this list here that I gave 1 star to that I will never recommend to you. And I feel sorry if you thought that reading it was a good idea, because I promise you it will not be. These are all my opinions, and if your opinions are different than mine, that is totally okay. But I mean, I'll never recommend you these books, so I just want to let you know, just to give you a heads up, just in case you were thinking that maybe you'll read it, because I don't want you to be disappointed. So let's just dive in. I have my iPad here, so sorry about the glare. To start off with, the very first book that I actually do have a physical copy of, that is going to be Margaret Cuthbert's A Silent Cradle, or The Silent Cradle. This was terrible. I read this in August for my reading month because I thought it would be good because it looks like it's a psych thriller mystery, and I absolutely hated it. I don't think I realized how much I despised anything negative happening to children as much as I did. Obviously, yes, it's terrible and I hate it, but I don't realize how much I actually hated it until I was able to read it in a book. And that's when it kind of got to this new level for me of, this didn't have to be written. You didn't have to go this far, is kind of how I felt with this book. I gave this a 1 star and I 100% do not recommend it. So in this book, you're following the main character, and she is an obstetrician, and so she is delivering babies, and she has a rival at another hospital who is also delivering babies, but it's at a clinic. And they're worried that the hospital obstetrician unit is going to be shut down, and all of the business is going to go to the clinic, and they're kind of fighting back and forth in the board to try to get the clinic individuals moved to the hospital because they just feel like that would be better. Why have the patients have to go to a separate location? Well, they're also noticing that there is a high death rate of mothers and babies, especially the babies, happening at this clinic, and they're trying to figure out what the problem is. And so as you go through the book, you're slowly following her get close to who it is, and it ends up being someone closer to her than she thinks, who's actually really important and really higher up on the board. And it just sucked. And at the end of the book, you're actually watching a young infant dangling by the ankle from this man's hand, and there's a gun in his hand, and it's just a lot going on, and I absolutely just despised it. I will not recommend this. It wasn't good. It just wasn't good. That's all I have to say. Going into the second physical book that I actually do have, that is The Family Plot by Megan Collins. And I was also, again, really disappointed in this one. This one I ended up picking up when I went to Barnes & Noble for the first time when I got into reading a couple of years ago. And I was super excited about this. I wasn't sure about any genres that I wanted to read or any authors that I thought were good, but I knew I loved mystery. And so that's the section that I went to, and I picked this up because the cover just looks super enticing. But it was really bad. Again, another 1 star for me. So basically with this book, you're following a family, and what is their family? The Lighthouse family. Yeah, you're following the Lighthouse family, and there are 2 twins, Dahlia and her twin. Then there's an older brother, an older sister, the mom and dad. Their childhood is like really just toxic. There's not a lot of love shown. Like, there's distance between like the father and the children, the mother and the children. But in their community, because they live on this little island, there are a lot of young women who are turning up dead at the shore, like as they're right on the shore. And for a long time, the family was suspected, especially the dad, but no one really knew. Well, years later in the future, the dad ends up dying, and at this point most of the kids have moved away, and so they decide to come back to kind of be with their mother during this time of grief and mourning. So when they all show up, all but one of the siblings is there because he's been missing since his 16th birthday. They have no clue where he is, and that happens to be Dahlia's twin. And so when they get there, they're kind of just going through the house, uncovering all these old mementos and memories and trying to just like honor their father in some type of way, but none of them feel that way. Come to find out, the family realizes that the dad was responsible for the murders, but they still are trying to figure out what does that have to do, if it has to do at all, with the disappearance of their brother. And so as they're like looking over the property, they come across like a grave that they never knew was there. And inside that grave houses the twin brother who died actually at the age of 16 and did not run away, and no one knew. And so then it just got really disappointing because you're trying to figure out who did it. Was it the dad who did it? And then as you get to the end of the book to figure out who's responsible, the older brother killed the younger brother to prevent the younger brother from assisting the dad in the murders, because the older brother was assisting the dad in the murders because he would lure the victims to a special location and the dad would get them and kill them. So he was now grooming the younger son to do it. The older brother figured out, decided to kill his brother to prevent him from doing it, and held the secret. And then the secret comes out and the family does nothing and they just keep it hidden again. I was so disappointed in this, and I'm so sorry if I spoiled it, but at this point, I don't think anyone should read it. It was that disappointing for me because it was like, first of all, your dad's a murderer and the son knew all this time and didn't do anything to prevent it. Then he could have done anything else, like tell the police. He could have protected his brother. He could have ran away with his brother. But no, I'm going to kill my brother to protect him from murdering with my dad. I mean, can you say confused? This was terrible. I was so disappointed in that. And then at the end, when they figured it all out, nobody told the police. No one said anything. No, our family has dealt with enough. We'll just keep it hidden. Are you kidding me? This innocent young boy who was tortured by his dad to do something terrible, you murdered him and didn't protect him. That was your way of saving him? Absolutely not. I was so disappointed in that, you guys. I know most of you guys are going to feel super sad about me saying it, but I hated this book, and that was Gillian Flynn, Gong Girl. I hated this book. This is based off a movie. If you did not know, I feel like an LMN movie, maybe Life Movie Network, something like that. My mom watched the movie, and I didn't watch the movie with her, but I had an idea of what this is about. So basically you have a husband and wife, and the husband is pretty quiet. He's kind of withdrawn. He doesn't remember all the special anniversary dates. He's just a dude. You know, some dudes are like that. And whereas the wife is the opposite. She's super involved. She remembers things. She likes scavenger hunts and quizzes and little notes, and she just likes to remember things. Well, they kind of have this weird relationship right now. Their marriage is kind of struggling, and all of a sudden one day the wife goes missing. No one knows where she is, and so obviously the first suspect is always who? The husband. So everyone's questioning him, but from the get-go I automatically didn't think it was his. Or there are people who are dead silent and have nothing to say, and he was like a mixture of both. Like he'd kind of like I don't really know, or he was dead silent and showed no emotion. It's just his personality. But that didn't make me suspect him. So throughout the whole book, you're trying to figure out where his wife is. There's search parties going on. Then you start getting these clues of this like scavenger hunt of like going to this part, then you get a box, then you get a letter. And he's like traveling all around, locating these little clues that his wife has left. And so I think as you can get where I'm going, you can kind of get what's going on. I was so utterly disgusted by this book. The Lamplighters by Emma Stokes, I believe. And a lot of people did not like this. So I'm not alone, but this is another mystery. And this is just weird. I don't even think I fully grasped it or even really understand it. But basically you're following three men who are lamplighters. And lamplighters are people like, I guess, like, I don't remember what time this was written in, like in the 1970s, around there, I guess. Where lighthouses, like in the middle of the ocean for like, you know, boats and whatnot, had to be manned manually, and the lights would be turned on and different things just to help guide boats in terrible storms. And so it actually had to be manned. And so we have three different men from three different walks of life. We have a very young man who's like in a torn kind of relationship with someone he loves. We have a man who doesn't want to be married and is in love with the other man's wife, who is also one of the Lamplighters. If I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I've read it. But they're all like stationed at this lighthouse for like 3 to 6 months at a time. And so their families are also coping with the fact that they don't like it. Like interviews or something is going on in between the book also because of what's happening. But basically the men start disappearing and they don't know where they're going. They were in a lighthouse and we have no clue where they've disappeared. They're in the middle of the freaking ocean. Where the heck do you think they went? I'm confused. Like, no boats have come this way. Where did they go if they're not in the lighthouse? And they're in the middle of the ocean, the raging seas. It was like, I don't know what it was about it. It was like, I don't know. I just didn't like it. And so basically you're just watching how each of these three men disappears, you know, you assume they jump over the side of the railing from the lighthouse. You assume they maybe get pushed. You assume they hallucinate, start going crazy. And then there's like this extraterrestrial like reference happening where there's like this sliver silver being mermaid goddess thing that could draw someone's hearing something, and it's just weird. And so I never got it. I don't know what the point of this was. I think that's the biggest thing. I didn't know what the point of it was, and I just feel like it was very ambiguous. You don't really know what was happening or what was supposed to happen. It just happened. The Girl in Cabin 13. This was the audiobook. You guys. I love audiobooks, okay? Audiobook girly all the way. You know what I mean? But this was on a whole level of like, I don't even know. Word vomit. We'll say that. Now, can you even fathom a wordy audiobook? Does it even make sense? A wordy audiobook? But that's what this was. This was the wordiest audiobook, I think, known to man. So basically, this book is following, I think she's a detective, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, FBI agent Emma Griffin is having some issues at her work. You know, she's not really playing by the code. You know, people aren't liking it. You know, her SAR is like, you know, cut it out. So basically, there's like this interview that she's having with someone who's been brought in, and she kind of goes off script. She's supposed to be, I think, undercover. Yeah, undercover. And she's supposed to be getting intel. She goes off script. There's a terrible accident, gunshots. She gets in trouble. So she's shipped off to this little itty bitty town because they think it's best for her. And I think there's some work that she could be doing there, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check. It's been a long time since I've read it, but it's like still kind of in my mind. Yes. So she's been sent to this little town because there's been some strings of disappearances, and then her boss wants her to focus on that because clearly she can't do the stuff he wants her to do. So she gets there, and immediately, not even like a day into being there, she meets this guy. And what is his name again? I don't even remember the guy's name. Does it even say his name on the synopsis? I don't even know. He was not amusing. That's all I can say about the dude. Yeah, his name isn't even. I think he's a bartender, like he owns a bar, and immediately meets him, falls in love. And that, it ain't love at first sight. Like, this wasn't love at first sight. This was just some weird way to throw in an odd romance. So now she's thrown into this weird romance with this very sad man who's like oddly dependent on her and calling her every 5 seconds. Literally one day being in the town, they're just madly in love, can't get enough of each other, calling each other every 5 seconds. And then it's wordy because you're getting so much of her inner dialogue, and it's unnecessary. It's not like, you know, you hear the inner thoughts of someone as they're like talking to someone. You know what I mean? And those are good because it adds depth. But with this book, it was like she would do things like, I got into the shower, but when I got out, I lifted up the window, and as I lifted up the window, steam flew out the window, and it created a fog on the mirror, and so I drew on the mirror some letters, and then I got my towel, and I wrapped it around myself, but then I saw a basket of laundry falling over, and I reminded myself I didn't do my laundry today, but if I went over to my drawer, I noticed that my drawer was left open, and inside my drawer, I saw all my folded garments. Then I saw the stack of towels I forgot to put away, so I began to put those away, and I sat them on the bed. Then the door rang, but I remembered I just had my towel on, and it's like, why do I care, bro? Why do we care? But the whole book was her describing literally everything. I went to the desk. I grabbed my notebook. I opened my notebook and flipped a few pages. Then I grabbed my pen and I sat there looking at my notebook, not knowing what to write. Then I started to write. I crossed it out. Then I wrote again. Then I crossed it out. Then I began to think. But after I started thinking, I got thirsty. It just like kept going on. And it was like the audiobook was getting filled of this wordy inner dialogue, and then this sad man falling in love with you after one day and you don't even know him. All the while you're trying to solve all these mysteries. I couldn't. I was deeply disappointed. Like, it was a waste of a credit. I'm not even gonna lie to you. A waste of an Audible credit. A waste of a $15.99 Audible credit. The book sucked. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I don't recommend that at all. 1 star, definitely like 0 stars. And then to dive into the very last book, I don't have the physical copy because I gave that one away. And that is The Murderer's Daughter by Jonathan Kellerman. I actually have another Jonathan Kellerman book on my shelf, but I picked this up because it's supposed to be like a mystery. And the title, The Murderer's Daughter, my first instinct when I saw that was to think, oh my gosh, wow, so there is a murderer and he has a daughter who is also a murderer. That is what I thought, literally, because on the back, she's a psychiatrist, I believe, or a psychologist or something like that. And so my thought is, we have a murdering psychiatrist or psychologist on our hands. Her parent was a murderer. Great. No. The title, do not be fooled by the title. Do not be fooled. The main character, what was her name? Grace? What was the name? Yes. The main character, her murderous parents, she had 2 drug dilly junkie parents living in this really bad trailer. They paid no attention to her. She was like completely neglected, but she was really intelligent, but she just kind of stayed to herself, and she's kind of just described her childhood because it goes between past and present. And so you're following her, describing her childhood as a young kid, and the murder is the mom and dad junkies in the kitchen getting mad at each other because someone took somebody's score or thinking someone was talking to somebody, something just stupid. And one of the parents gets mad and they begin to like tussle in the kitchen, and one of them grabs a knife. The other person, I believe, takes a knife and falls onto it, thus hurting them own self, and ending their own self. Then the other parent feels so distraught, then proceeds to take a knife and do it to themselves. And that was the murderer. The murderous parents. I was so mad when I read that, because then the book just fell. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? That's the murderer and this is their daughter? Are you kidding me? I was thinking like some serial killer with a daughter who's a psychiatrist who's a serial killer. That's what I was thinking. And so basically after that happens, she gets taken to a foster care, and she's like at this ranch, and she's living there. There's a lot of other kids. There's 3 siblings. There's one kid who has a physical disability. There's a couple other kids there, and she just kind of reads and stays to herself. Well, one day the owner of the ranch or the orphanage ends up dying, and so then she's kind of placed into some different homes, and then she meets this really wealthy family, and she kind of gets herself set up for this really big career and goes about her way. But then the author then gets to the present of her and basically starts making her addicted to sleeping with people. And so she has these weird bouts and urges of in the middle of the night, meeting random men, sleeping with them, and I can't remember if she attacks them or knocks them out enough to get away and leaves them kind of out in the open after she's done what she needed to do. And it's making her just have this weird addiction, but she's a psychiatrist. Well, she does that, and she ends up, seeing patients, and the man who comes to see her the next day is that man that she just had that night encounter with. So obviously she can't see him anymore, so she doesn't. But then as time progresses, he ends up dead. And so then she's trying to figure out what's going on, and then someone's targeting her, someone is following her. And throughout the book, you're just kind of watching that back and forth. And it was just sad. I didn't like the fact that I felt like a male author was about to really make a very vulgar and a woman addicted to such a thing just so out in the open, and she's a professional woman. I didn't like that he did that. I didn't like that he led you with this title of these parents being murderers and they weren't. And then you come to find out the man who ended up dying, who she ended up sleeping with, was actually one of the kids at the orphanage. And so now she's being hunted and some weird chain of events happening. And so it just was bad. It was just bad. That's all I can say. This video is getting really long. I don't want to make you sit here for hours to tell you how bad something was, and it was just bad. But yeah, all these books were literally 1 star for me. I do not recommend them. I mean, if you've read them and you love them, I'm so happy for you, because I love when people love books, and I really wished I could have loved these, but I just didn't. And if you have any other books that you also felt were just terrible and you don't recommend, leave them down below, because maybe one of these will be a recommend to someone and they will like them. But I feel like I hope no one reads them and hates them as much as I did, because then I'll be sad you wasted your time. But they sucked. Yeah, and I feel like I haven't really seen too many people do a video like this. I feel like most people post videos of things they want to recommend, but I am not recommending all 6 of these books to you. And I really do hope that you liked the video and that it gave you some great not recommendations. And if you did, do not forget to give it a thumbs up and hit your notification bell. Then every time I post, you'll be notified. And subscribe to the YouTube channel and join the Bookish fam, because honestly, we're really nice and we have a lot of fun here. And yeah, so without further ado, I'll catch you all in my very next one.